What if I told you that the global internet, the system billions of people rely on every single day, once came dangerously close to breaking because of one teenager quietly exploring how it worked? Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Not a coordinated attack, not a hostile nation, and not a sophisticated cyber army. Just a curious young mind, sitting behind a screen, learning faster than anyone expected. For most of us, the internet feels permanent. Websites load instantly, messages travel across continents in seconds, and services rarely fail in ways that make us question the system itself. But behind this apparent stability lies an infrastructure that is far more delicate than it appears. The internet is not a single machine. It is a network of agreements, trust relationships, and routing decisions that must constantly align for everything to function smoothly. This story begins with curiosity, not malice. The teenager at the center of it wasn't searching for fame or money. He wasn't attempting to steal data or cause disruption. He was fascinated by the invisible mechanisms that move information around the world. While others used the internet as a tool, he wanted to understand its foundation. He read technical documents, studied how networks communicate, and slowly realized that many of the internet's most critical systems were built decades ago, during a time when trust was considered more important than security. Those assumptions still existed. Carefully, he began experimenting within legal and technical boundaries, observing how small changes could influence the flow of data. At first, nothing unusual happened. Traffic behaved as expected, and the system absorbed minor variations without issue. But over time, subtle shifts began to appear. Information that should have taken direct routes was being redirected. Some services slowed, others briefly disappeared. What made this moment truly alarming was that the system did not immediately reject the changes. The internet accepted them. Behind the scenes, network operators around the world started noticing inconsistencies. Data was traveling in unexpected patterns. Monitoring tools flagged anomalies that did not resemble ordinary outages. Teams investigated, initially assuming the cause was a misconfiguration or routine failure. But as the evidence accumulated, it became clear that this behavior followed a deliberate pattern. Someone was testing the system. This realization triggered concern among experts because there were no warning signs of a traditional attack. There were no demands, no public disruptions, and no attempt to draw attention. Instead, the internet's routing logic itself was being subtly influenced, raising the possibility that if the process continued, large portions of the network could become unstable. In the worst-case scenario, traffic would begin looping endlessly. Data would disappear into unreachable paths, and services that depend on precise coordination would fail without warning. The result would not be a dramatic collapse, but a gradual unraveling of global connectivity. Emergency procedures were activated quietly. Network relationships were adjusted. Trust between systems was temporarily restricted. Safeguards that had rarely been tested under real pressure were suddenly deployed. Slowly, the abnormal behavior stopped, and the internet returned to normal operation. Most people never noticed anything unusual, but the teenager did. He saw the response and understood what it meant. The system was being watched. The experiment had reached a scale that could no longer be ignored. And with that realization, the activity stopped entirely. Later investigations traced the source of the disruption to a single individual, not a government actor, not a corporation, and not an organized group. A teenager whose curiosity had exposed how fragile the internet's core systems really were. For professionals in the field, this was more troubling than the incident itself. It demonstrated that some of the most important infrastructure in the modern world could be influenced not by advanced weapons or state power, but by knowledge and access to systems built on outdated assumptions. Quietly, changes followed. Monitoring improved. Security measures were strengthened. Discussions began about redesigning parts of the internet that were never meant to support today's level of risk. But these conversations largely remained out of public view, because acknowledging how close the internet came to serious disruption would have forced a difficult question into the open. If one curious teenager could come this close unintentionally, what could someone with malicious intent achieve deliberately? Today, the individual at the center of this story has faded into anonymity. There were no interviews, no public recognition, and no lasting fame. He returned to a normal life, carrying with him the knowledge of how easily the systems connecting the world can be influenced. The internet continues to function, not because it is unbreakable, but because most people do not know where its weakest points lie. This is not a story about a villain or a hero. It is a reminder that the systems we depend on are built by humans, shaped by trust, and maintained by assumptions that are constantly being tested. And the most unsettling part is not what almost happened in the past. It is the fact that more people are learning how these systems work every single day. Thank you so much for watching. If you really like this, hit the subscribe and like button.